Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of First Generation Celebration Week at Kishwaukee College. Today, we've got with us Harvie Herrington, who is going to share with us the power of a dream. He is an author of a book called 80-20 Rule, and he is a speaker. He loves talking to trio students and first gen students in particular. And he used to play in the NFL. So we're going to hear his story today and be inspired. And we're just excited that you're here with us, Harvie. So I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it. Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you guys?
Good.
You can turn your mics off. I know some of you got kids at home, so I'm gonna ask too if you don't mind turning your cameras on. If you can't, you don't want to, that's fine. But I love looking at and getting feedback with the expressions and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get started. I want to get rolling with this. This is not like a keynote where I'm from stage and I'm giving you this one strict talk and I got from here to here. I'm going to be all over the place with you guys today. I want to communicate with you guys. I want to get feedback from you guys, and I learn as well. And I come up with this first question. I'm working out this morning. I'm like, what am I going to ask? What am I going to talk to these guys about? And me being a first generation student as well, when I went to community college, I just wished a program like that because I had no idea. So here's my question. I wrote it down many different ways. I'm going to say it differently right now. What are you carrying around in your book bag besides your books? When you first walked in as a freshman, traditional or non-traditional student, most of us first generation kids think, I'm gonna call myself a kid, right? So think that we are walking in school with just our books in our book bag or our computer, and that's it. And you're not when you're a first generation student. There's so many things that's going on. I think wrote it down, Ashley. Did I say it right, Ashley? Ashley, you have 3 kids. So you're carrying around 3 kids in your book bag, girl. You know, along you got a fiance, you got so much that you're carrying with you. And what's the difference between first generation and second generation? Well, I'll talk about it because my wife and I are both are first generation students, but our kids aren't going to be. And we can already see the difference. We know the difference. We know what it looks like. So we're trying to help them maneuver. Our oldest is 15. Well, we actually have 4 kids. Our oldest is, how old is that boy? 32. He's one of my former football players when I coached. My wife and I took him into our family. So we took him in years ago. He's now 32, living in Florida, doing his own thing. So we have 4 kids. He too was a first generation college student. Now we got him and took him into our lives. He's 16. So a lot of the stuff that he went through, he had some stuff that he gone through in life. That's why we took him in. So we weren't able to help him clear some of that stuff out before he walked into college, just like me, just like my wife, just like you guys. But we got 4 amazing kids. We got a 15-year-old now, so we're starting to mentally prepare her for college. No visits yet, but as soon as COVID's over, I'm sure the first visit is coming. The letters are coming, thinking about what schools you're going to go to. As a first generation, we didn't have any of that. I mean, we kind of hear it in school, you know, or in high school or whenever we talked about it, but we really didn't have anybody to prep us for college. Our kids are home right now. Since COVID hit and shut us down, we knew our kids weren't going back to school because of underlying health issues in our household. So our kids are home, and I keep telling our kids right now, I said, you're learning something. There's kids that went back to school. We're in Iowa, so we never completely shut down like you guys did in Illinois. So our kids, when school started, went back to school, and our kids were here. And I was like, this is kind of like college. This is kind of like, you got Dad back here saying, because one of them sitting right behind me on the other side of the wall there at the table. The other one's downstairs doing band class right now. But Dad always sitting here, hey, lock it in, you know, let's get it done. You guys got work to do, because they can get kind of chatty going back and forth. But we're preparing them for stuff because we've walked the path, and none of us trio kids did. And when I first was asked to speak for at a trio group, I think 2.5 years ago, I didn't even know of trio, never heard of it. I was just speaking to high schools, middle schools, and certain colleges, but I never heard of trio. And then I talked to the lady and found out what it was. I was like, oh my goodness, why in heaven's name did they not have this when I was in college? Because man, I needed this. I needed to be aware of this. And then I started putting together a talk. And that was the first thing I thought about. I walked into Moraine Valley Community College with my book bag on thinking I'm going to be successful. And I was so far from successful, it was ridiculous. And I have no problem with sharing this story because of my success that I've had. So this talk is called The Power of a Dream, right? My dream drove me through some things, but here's the truth. I went to college to play football, not to get a degree. I went to college to play football, and a degree was secondary. So what happened? My very first semester in school, I moved in with 5 guys, and I got a 1.5 GPA out of that, 1.5, because I, number one, was a first generation student. I had no wherewithal about how to do what I needed to do as a student. I hung out with these guys. We had an older non-traditional athlete with us that kept me. It was just all of these little bitty things that just get a hold of you that you don't know about. Like I had no idea about studying. What does studying mean for me where I come from? I come from a community where my mom would say, boy, you get your homework done? Sure. And that was about the gist of it. That was the gist of it. Sure. And that was it. So therefore, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to prepare. All of these things that Trio teach these kids is just amazing. So again, it's important. Out of this talk, the most important thing outside of the dream that I want you guys to remember that what are you carrying around with you that's preventing you from being successful? I had a dream. My dream was the only thing that got me through community college and then through getting my 4-year and then on to starting a master's degree. That was it, because everything else that I carried in that bag was pulling me away from school. I could go and tell you that. So having a first semester like that, here's what happened. So at the end of my 2 years, I needed to get my associate's degree to move on. I had 8 scholarship offers, pretty good football player. They all disappeared because I wasn't ready to graduate. I took 27 semester hours in one semester in the fall. So like right now in the fall, I had to red shirt while I was in community college because I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the class. That one semester killed. I was forever playing catch up. So I took 27 hours. I had COM 101, 102, and 103 in one semester. All in one semester. I had to go to a counselor and get all of this approved to get this done. Why? Because I was a first generation student. Because my background was not conducive for me getting an education. I'm the only one in my bloodline in my family's household that has a high school diploma, let alone an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree. Only one. So that tells you right there what I was carrying around in my book bag with my books going to school. And we need to know that. I listen to speakers all the time. We get our content from each other. And a lot of them say, you focus on your strengths, you focus on your strengths, you focus on your strengths. I believe in that, but also believe that you need to know what your weaknesses are. Because I call them potholes. If you have no idea what your weaknesses are, you continue to step in them. My story, how do I explain that to people that don't get it? Let's just say my dream is to have a brand new Cadillac Escalade one day. I want to go to the lot and buy it in cash. My butt be the first butt in that car to drive off. So I go to Chicago. I take this trip to Chicago to the Cadillac dealer and I buy this new Cadillac, but the roads are horrible. On the way back, the roads is full of potholes. So a 200-mile trip of potholes with my brand new Cadillac. My Cadillac is torn up by the time I get back home because I've hit every pothole on the way, mile after mile after mile. That's what happens to us. The junk we carry around in our bag, if we don't know what it is, we need to fill those potholes. We need to know where they are so we don't step in them. That's what was happening to me. I just got blessed. That's why I speak. I didn't even want to be a speaker, guys. Forgive me, but God threw me into this. I knew I wanted to help people, and I'll share this story here in a little bit, but I just didn't know if I wanted to do this. But then I realized, especially after hitting Trio and finding out about Trio, people need to know. You need to know that if you don't fill those potholes, if you don't know what they are, you will step in them. And people aren't wired in a way that some people get knocked down once and never get back up. So if you can protect yourself from getting knocked down, or you know what's out there in front of you, the potholes you have, you can fill them or you can maneuver around them. And that's what Trio, I think a big part of Trio helps people like me, people like you do. So let's go ahead and tell the story and share my story with you. And then I'm going to share a couple of things about self-leadership. I for a couple of years, I've been trying to figure out what type of speaker I am. Every speaker, I've taken all these classes. You got to know what kind of speaker you are. You got to know your lane. And I was like, I don't know my lane. I don't know what type of speaker I am. And it just kept coming to me. And finally, I'm a self-leadership speaker. I got workshops that I teach people about, but everything that I teach comes back to you. It's all about you. Everything in your life is about you. I'm driving along in the car one day, coming back from a speaking event, and I kept hearing the word you. I turned the radio off. I'm like, all right, Lord, talk to me. What does you mean? What does it mean? What does you mean? And I'm just feeding it. It's all you. Everything that happens to you in your life is you. Everything. The good things, the normal things, the bad things, it's all you. How you perceive it, how you hear it, how you respond to it, how you act to it. It's you. You have to be your best. You have to be the greatest self-leader that you can possibly be, because let's use this. My wife leaves me. God forbid. She ain't going to leave me. But God forbid, my wife leaves me. How am I going to handle it? How am I going to handle it? Especially if I had nothing to do with it. Do I ball up in a corner and cry? Or do I figure things out and I get up and I get moving? It's you. How do I respond? Somebody walks in, you walk into work tomorrow and you get fired and don't even know why. What do you, listen to the word, what do you do? How do you respond? Do you cry? Do you give up? Do you break down? Or do you process that failure and you figure out what went wrong and you get up and move on? It's all you. Even the good things. This is what happens in the world today. People get all these, I saw in the world of football, they get all this money. They're like, in the world of football, they're first generation millionaires and they ain't prepared for it. So it comes down to them, the word you again. If you can show yourself that I am responsible for every action that takes place in my life, highs, mediums, or lows, it comes down to me. I can't blame my wife for that. I'm not going to blame my boss for that. I'm not going to blame my partner for screwing something up, because if I do that, I'm losing my ability to lead myself. So it was just, I just kept building off of you. And are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do we get hurt? Absolutely yes. But if you can come back and say, Harvie, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. How do I process and handle this? It hurts or it feels great, but what's the best thing for me? It may even sound selfish, and kind of in a way it is, but if you're not selfish enough to get you right, how can you hope to have a relationship right? How can you hope to be good in school if you don't get you right? How can you hope to be a good mother, a good sister, a good daughter, a good son if you don't get you right? That's the biggest thing I've learned in all that I've researched and studied and stuff about myself. It was me. So here's the story. I was born in Mississippi, lived in Mississippi until I was in third grade, or in the end of second grade. My mom moved my brother and I to Chicago. We grew up, we went in the city, then moved out in the suburbs. I grew up in Calumet Park. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of Cal Park, not Calumet City, but Calumet Park. So I grew up in Calumet Park, went to Blue Island High School. From there, from Blue Island, I went to Moraine Valley Community College. From Moraine Valley Community College, Western Illinois University. I'm a WIU Leatherneck for Life grad. From there, the football thing, Indianapolis Colts, career-ending injury, got healed from that, played arena football for a couple of years, Chicago Bears, 2 knee surgeries, football all over, you name it. I'm nobody special when it came to sports. I'm just a guy that had a dream that I put a helmet on wherever I could go play. I coached high school football. I met my wife where I went to college. So we lived in our town for 20 years in Macomb and stayed there, open up businesses there, open up a fitness facility, coached high school football there for 18 years and just started living a really good life. We got it. Our kids are in private school. We're just doing okay. And 7 years ago, really truthfully 9 years ago, I wrote down on my goal list that I wanted to move. Why did I want to move? I wanted to put my kids somewhere where things were a little bit more diverse. I wanted to get where there's a few more people at. So I wrote that goal down. We moved within 2 months of the date that we wrote down for our goals. So we moved up here. We live north of the Quad Cities. And I took this job. So I'll tell you this quick story about that too. I took this job at I'm a fitness guy. That's what I got my degree in, corporate fitness it was called, but it's not kinesiology. So I was a director at a YMCA in Moline, Illinois. Took this job and working my butt off for these people. I had never worked for anybody in my life. I'm an entrepreneur. I got to work for myself. That's just how I'm wired. And that's what I said. I didn't want to do this. I knew in my mind I wanted to speak, but I was like, I better take this job. You better take this job. And so it didn't work. I worked my butt off for it, just nothing worked. We call it the biggest negative push in a positive direction ever. My middle child and I come up with that. It was so negative, went through so much, but it was like, Harvie, this is what you're supposed to do. So I went on this speaking thing, and that's what led me here to you. Christine, I can't remember how you found me. I don't know if it was through a connection of Trio or what it was, but that's what I do. And I got my amazing family. Everybody's here because my wife, she works at Scott Community College here in Davenport. So she's home today. They go in and out of work right now. But that's what I do. Amazing life, beautiful kids, beautiful home, beautiful community, all of that stuff. But it wasn't always that way. It wasn't. Growing up as a kid, I said in Mississippi, I was born in Mississippi. My mom's on here, so she's about to get it if she's still on here. I was born in Mississippi, and my mom and dad were high school sweethearts. They got married right out of high school, had me at 20, were divorced before they were 21, I believe. A really bad divorce. Dad took off, gone. Heartbroken, didn't want anything to do with mom or his only born son, still his only born child. So I call these things change. These are the things we carry around in our bag. I'm going to talk to you guys about. So that was my first chain in my life. No dad. Typical story in America today. 50%, 52% divorce rate. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I just want to remind you of what you may be carrying around. So that's my first bag. No dad. Every young man needs his father in his life. Every young woman needs her father in her life. Why? Because I show my son what it's like to be a man and how a man treats his wife. I show my daughters what it's like to be a man and how a man treats his wife, and vice versa, to give them somebody to look up to. So I ain't going to go any deeper into that part of it right now. So then we kind of went on a tangent in life. I'm the first child, kind of moved around down there in Mississippi and just wasn't good. Wasn't fun. No stability, different homes, different places, different family, different people. And when you have that, you don't have that stability in your life. That's another thing I've just thrown into my bag. Kid growing up without stability, kid growing up without a dad in his life. So then we moved to Chicago, and moving to Chicago from the dirty South, deep South Mississippi, you didn't speak like this, but when I first moved up here, I talked like this. So I had a really strong country accent, really strong, and I got lit up. The minute I got to school talking like that, just lit up. On top of that, I'm older now, so I'm starting to atrophy body-wise, but at my peak, I was 6'3", still 6'3", but 315 pounds of muscle playing professional football. So I'm a big man. But this third grade kid, I always talk about this really big guy. Inside of this big guy lives this little four-eyed, overweight, low self-esteem fat kid inside of here. He never goes away. He's always here. I'm always protecting him. That's why I do what I do, to protect other kids like that. So I had all of these issues in grade school of growing up with that in my life. Bullying, made fun of. And when I'll go past bullying to, I had a bully that took 2 summers of my life away from me, emotionally, physically, socially, you name it, abused by a guy, and went through that for 2 years until I finally got the nerve. So I speak at a lot of schools, especially junior highs, about bullying and abuse. Had to deal with that growing up. By the time I graduated high school, guys, I had over 7 or 8 different stepdads in and out of my life. Different men in and out of my life. Not men that invested in me, but men that were just in my house. We grew up poor, public aid. Now, here's one thing I'll say about this. My mom was a hard worker. When people get upset about public aid and all of that, my mom's a beast when it comes to working. She works her butt off, and she used that state money to make sure we had food on the table, but she worked, and I give her all of that credit. She just didn't know how to be a mom because her mom didn't know how to be a mom. Things like that get passed on. You know, when I go talk to kids, I tell them we live in circles, all of us. And if you don't know that you live in a circle, you can't break it. You know, and I never try and offend people, but I say pigs don't know pigs stink. What kind of pig? What are you talking about? Pig don't know pigs stink. But if I go take a pig out of the pig pen and I clean that pig up and I let that pig live in my house and I work with that pig and keep it clean, and then I take it back to the pig pen, it's going to realize what it was actually living in. So we have to know that about ourselves, because most of the times we don't. I guess with the blessing knew that I didn't want that. I guess I really can't. I dig deep on it, and that's not this talk, but just kind of sharing that stuff with you. So again, I get to the end of high school, the 8 different dads and all that stuff, living the way I lived. I get into college. Somewhere before the professional ranks, I start thinking, probably at Western, how did I make it through all of this? What got me here? What helped me get here? And it was my dream to play football. That's what got me here. A dream is so powerful that it will lift you up on your darkest days. A dream is so powerful, it refills your tank. It gives you energy. And Ashley, I believe, right? Ashley, you're going to be a nurse, right? Is Ashley one? Yeah. So I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna put you in this story because I got to share my story, but I'm gonna put you in the story. A nurse, how powerful that is, how powerful that can be, how powerful that's gonna be. That little baby laying on your chest right now. That nursing career is not just for you, and you know this. It's for that little baby. That nursing career is not just for that little baby. It's for your life. It's for people around you. It's for your family. It's for so much. But sometimes we don't know that. And I didn't know that. And then there's so many people that don't even have a dream, guys. That's another blessing that I know that I was given. My brother didn't have a dream. My sister didn't have a dream. We all come from the same system, but only one of us made it out. The other 2 now are trying to make it out because they're older. They're in their 40s now, but they didn't in their 30s and in their 20s and in their teen years because they didn't have this dream. And I tell people here, this is how powerful it is. So my mom used to tell this story all the time about my dad, this great high school football player. The same story. My mom's on here. She's heard this story before, but I still struggle sharing it. I grew up in a house of lies. That's how I grew up. I was groomed to lie. I was groomed to be untruthful. I come from that environment. But this story was true because it never changed. It never changed. And the story went, I loved watching your dad play football on Friday night lights. And she's like, and there was one particular game, I went up to him, we're walking off the field, I got my hand around his waist, his hand on my shoulder, they're high school sweethearts, you know. And she's like, oh, baby, you're bleeding. You got blood all over me. So I didn't have my dad. This little boy didn't have my dad. Every time she told that story, I'd hear this voice. Oh, baby. And this is what she said. Baby, that wasn't me. It was the guy I played. I handled business all night. So here's this little kid that doesn't have a dad that kept hearing this story about his dad. And I knew that I wanted to play football in high school football. That's all I knew. I knew that one day I was going to be a high school football player. this little bitty seed. You guys, I'm a little biblical, so I'm gonna throw this at you. This little bitty mustard seed. This little bitty mustard seed that bloomed into what I'm doing with you right now and so much more was planted. And every time she planted it, just dug a little deeper. And I just knew, you know, and you don't even think about it. How'd you make it through the abuse? How did you make it through the bad stepfathers? How did you make it through being poor? How did you get the woman? How did you get through the physical abuse? I just knew I wanted to play football. That's all I knew. And I refused. That's how I met our son. I refused to let school get in the way of me playing football. See, now I try and teach that in reverse with students. I don't want them thinking that way now, but I refused. I needed to keep a C average to play football. I met our son, Terrence. The first time I met him, he was a freshman or a sophomore. I overheard one of the coaches saying Terrence is ineligible this week. A little black kid in a white community. And I said, I'm talking to this boy. So I sat in my van one day, waited to him leave the locker room. And this is before I ever knew I was going to take him into our house. And I get him in the van. I was like, Terrence, what are you doing? I heard that, you know, he didn't have a dad and his mom wasn't doing too well in life. I said, you can never, ever, ever do this again. So that was my first talk with him. 2 years later, we take him into our house. So that's what it pulled me through school. It got the high school diploma. Here's another one. So sometime in March or April or sometime I don't know when it was. I can't tell you the date it was. My mom gave me this box with these steel-toed boots in it, these brown boots, steel-toed. And she's like, here you go. I took the box. It's like, what is this? She's like, oh, you're going to graduate high school. Really good, blah, blah, blah. Now you got boots to go get a job at some mill or another in the city of Chicago, which didn't even exist back then. And I took those boots and I probably said thank you, I think. And I kept those boots as a reminder. Here's how my life has played out so far, that even someone as close to me as much as I love, my mother's opinion of me was not my opinion of me. I knew I was going to college by that time already to play football, not to get a degree. I'll remind you, not to get a degree, to play football. So I get into football, I get into college. People believe in you, they help you. That's what coaches do. So my freshman year go by, I thought it'd end at the end of community college. I didn't know anything else. When you got a goal also pulls you into the next stages of life, especially if you don't know what to look for. So at the end of my freshman year, I was defensive player of the year and all of this stuff, and then start hearing I can get scholarships. So I can get scholarships and move on after here. So that dream pulls me to that. So what do I need to do? You need to work harder. So it's my sophomore year of got school starting to talk to me, reaching out, scholarship offers everywhere. It's a Tuesday. It's the second week of the season. It's a Tuesday and I'm walking out, beautiful day like today, but fall, it was a little bit warmer. I remember it wasn't cold yet. And I'm walking out to practice. And one of the players said, hey, you need to come back in. Coach needs to see you. Coach has to talk to you. I'm voted as a captain on the team that year. So I go back, I sit in the office, small little office like this. I sit in the office, I'm looking at Coach. I'm like, Coach, what's going on? I taken off my helmet and stuff and put it outside. And he's just staring at me. I'm like, Coach, what's up? And he's just staring at me. After about the third Coach, what's up? I'm like, something ain't right. And there's another coach standing here against the wall, and he's still dressed. All of our coaches were assistant coaches, so he was a county sheriff. He's standing there. He's still in his work gear. And Coach Bars started crying. And I looked at Coach Bars, and I'm like, Coach, what's going on? You know, in today's time, you'd be looking for cameras, see if somebody's joking, but this was not that time. And he's bawling. And I look over here at the coach. He steps away from the wall and he's like, Harvie, I got to arrest you and take you down to county. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I got to take you down to county. I look back at Coach Bars and he's bawling. I know this is real. And he's holding these silver handcuffs up at me. And I had two thoughts. I looked at the cuffs and it took me back to a moment in my life. This is a dream again, that I'm hanging out with my buddies, Greg and Tim, and a couple other guys from the neighborhood. We'd come from the store. Greg and Tim were from Cabrini Green. These were some pretty hardcore projects in Chicago. They went to jail like it was a sport. I kid you not, these kids just were in trouble all the time. But we all ran together. We're coming home one night and a bunch of police roll up on us, take us up against the fence, 127th Street. And another cop car rolls up on the side street and it's got this little girl in the back and she's bawling. So we're there, the cops have got us, and so they start taking us one by one over the car. I got to get excuse me, nose is running. One by one, they take us over to the car and stick our head in. So here's my turn coming in. He takes my head, pokes it in the car, and she's crying, and I'm bawling. And they're like, "Is this him?" And I'm looking at her. I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm crying. She's crying. She stares at me and she said, "No, it's not." And he takes me and he pushes me away and he's like, "Get your whatever out of here. Get out of here." I look back at Greg and Tim getting roughed up by the police. And I remember saying, I won't ever hang out with Greg and Tim again, ever hang out with them again, because I cannot do that. Now, I don't know why I made that decision. Years and years of thinking again, I can only tell you it was because I wanted to play football. I had a dream. Greg and Tim had no purpose or dream. A lot of the friends I hung around had no purpose or dream. And that's the only thing I can go back with and saying that's what, and here I am looking at these cuffs and I said, I'd make this decision and never do that. And then he said, "There's a warrant out for your arrest for murder." And that's when I was done. I looked back at Coach Bars, I sat in my seat, he's crying, and I just sat there. Beautiful day, sun shining, I'm chasing after my dreams to be this football, get a scholarship. And I look at Coach Bars, I don't think I said anything. This is a long time ago now, I don't think I said anything. And Coach Bars is bawling and he stops and he starts talking to his coach, assistant coach, police officer, and they're going back and forth. And I remember him saying, "I don't care. It's a warrant out. I got to take him." And he convinced him to let me go home that day to get with my mom. So next day or day after, I don't know exact time frame, it's me, the lawyer, my mother, my grandmother, my baby sister standing there as we're getting ready to turn Harvie Herrington in. And we go there and we find out that there's a Harvie Herrington already in there. And they can't have two Harvie Herringtons. It was my brother. My brother was a part of this heinous crime, had something to do with this crime, but he put my name on it. Took me, I don't know what the time frame was, but I stood next to my brother as he got a 60-year sentence. And the judge tells me to get my ASS out of here and don't ever get in trouble again. I'd never been in trouble before in my life. So this was that Tuesday. That Saturday, well, the next couple of days, Mom, Coach Harvie, just stay home. You've had too much going on. Don't worry about the game. I lay in bed and I'm laying there Saturday morning and I get up and I drive myself back to the locker room. I get my stuff and I drove to the game. Don't know why. But then years later, I thought about it. It was my dream. And I knew that if I didn't play football that Saturday, I may never play it again. But I don't know how I did it. But my point of telling you this story is please don't feel sorry for me. My point of telling you this is that that's how powerful a dream can be for all of you. To be that nurse when you're tired, when you got 3 kids and maybe ain't nobody there helping, and you got to figure out how you got to get to class. Thank goodness for, but you got to figure out how to get to class, or you got to figure out how to pay a bill. You got to figure out if you want that bad enough. See, I didn't know any of this was happening until I processed all of it. That's how powerful it is for you to know what it is that you want. So that's why I do this, because first generation kids, think of all that baggage I carried with me. And I saw so many let that baggage keep them. I got to talk. It's live, but there ain't nobody going to see it. I got to talk to a kid tonight in a college out in, I don't know, Nebraska or somewhere that's thinking of dropping out of school because he comes from this environment. His coach, I spoke at their school 2 years ago. His coach calls me. He's like, "Can you talk to this kid?" Because they know the story. He's like, if he goes home, he's done. I talked to another kid that just reminds me of another story. A kid, he and I are talking one-on-one in school I'd spoken to, and he's from South Florida somewhere. And he was like, "Man, if I don't make it pro, I'm going to be stuck. I'm going to have to move back home, and I'm going to have to stay home, or else the streets are going to get me. And I'm like, man, you're already out. You said South Florida, you're here wherever we are in the Midwest. You're already out, but you don't know that yet. It's already pulling you back, and you're thinking you're going to play pro. And I don't ever kill anybody's dreams, but I just try and get them to process things and realistically understand. It was a Division III school. The chances of you making it pro is that. But the chances of you getting your degree and not letting Florida get you is that. But you got to stay in school. And you got to know what's holding you back. I don't study. I'm lazy. Well, that's because you grew up in that environment. But you got to know that about yourself. It's your pothole. I'm not inspired. I don't know what you want. That's because that's where you come from. So you got to work on it. If you don't work on it, it's gonna get you. I'll be as negative as I can there. If you don't work on it, it's always pulling you, because you got all of those chains that's just dragging you down. And the bad part about it is they don't ever go away. You can snip them and make them shorter. When I'm talking to kids about their dads being gone or their moms, here's the bad news. You'll never fill that hole. You'll never fill that void. My dad came back into my life. We're buddies. We're not friends. We're buddies. We try and talk, but he came back too late. So we're buddies. You know, I'm more of a dad to my mom and my dad than they are to me. I just had to educate myself and learn that. I grew up in a house where nobody tells anybody that they love them. I remember the day I told my mom, and I remember her reaction. But I leaned in and said, I love you. I put her in a position where she couldn't do anything but either say it back or just accept it. So now we say it, you know, and I just think that my dream kept me in line long enough that it allowed me to work on all of them change, guys, to work on them, to see what they are. Because, okay, I come from, like I said, a broken home with relationships. I always knew that it was going to be one marriage. One. If she leaves me, I'll live across the street, because I'm not going to be away from my kids. She ain't going to leave me. But that's how I'm wired. You know, one marriage, one ring. All my kids have the same last name, and they look just like me and her. Not like my brother and my sister. We got 3 different dads. All of these things are dreams. I'm telling you about dreams that you got to have. I'm telling you about, here's the thing that I learned. One of the worst things you can do is have them up here and not have them written down. So now all of my dreams are written down. My football dream was just that powerful. See what it pulled me. It pulled me back. I'm at Indianapolis Colts. I'm there. The contract is signed. The money. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to take care of my family. And boom, my back goes out and I can't walk for 3 weeks. And you're no value to the team, and you get released and sent home. One of the darkest days still in my life. Everything that I worked for, gone. I told you, this is your opportunity in the NFL. I thought mine was gone. But it was so powerful that once I started walking again and got up and went back to the gym, I started training again. And I played football at a time where football was everywhere. It's not like it is today. The economy was great and all that stuff. So it's like, oh, I'll play arena football. You know, they give good money back then, unlike they do today. So I played arena football, and then I had an opportunity with the Bears, and they signed me and all this stuff. It's that powerful. It's that powerful to have a dream like that. But you got to know about those potholes, and you got to be a great self-leader. It is 11:46, and I know we're probably running out of time. So I'm really bad at this. I'm trying to get better, promoting myself. I've got a great little book called 80-20 Rule. I have another book I wrote, but I chickened out. So then I wrote this book because I was like, write something that you know people will buy because of what you've done. So it's called 80-20 Rule. Remove the friction from your life, become a better athlete. But the book is written in a way, I just had an insurance agent that ordered it off of Amazon in a way that anybody can use these nuggets. But I was writing it I was thinking of me. So when I started working out in 7th grade, I didn't have anybody to teach me anything. And I said, what if a kid came to me and said, Coach, can you help me? And I was like, I don't live there, so I can't help you. Take this and read this. This will help you. There's nuggets in here about everything. I teach about personalities because I had to learn about my personality, goal setting, how to handle failure. The biggest one I think is one of the biggest things. One of the questions I always ask: how many people are afraid of failure? So now on Zoom, I say, click whenever the hand shows up. Everybody's hands show up. I teach people, don't ever raise your hand about that again. We're all afraid to fail, but you got to understand what failure gives you. It gives you a formula to success. There's very few people that know how to learn from their successes. Most of us learn from our failures. So go do it. Go fail. Get out there and do it. Don't be afraid, or even be afraid, but take the first step. Because if you take the first step, the second step is easier. The third step is easier, and then you're walking and running. So on failure, but one of the greatest things, one of the good things I do is I talk about leaders, and I'll pick 3 out of this. There's like 12 things in here. Before I do that, does anyone have any questions at all? No questions?
Any questions? No? Jose?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I just feel really moved by your story and for everything you've been through, and made me realize how things can be, like how tough things can be. And I can see that you really went through a lot, and that just amazes me. And I think it's pretty good.
I used to think that too, Jose, and I appreciate that, but there are people in this world at my worst day, they would love to have it, that are doing so much worse. I've met some people, some young people. I've been to some really bad schools. My story it's my story, so no one can tell it the way I can, but thank you. I want to say that I'm not taking that away from what you're saying, but there's so much pain out there. And I just hope that me sharing that and showing you that you can get through all of that pain. You don't think raising 3 kids, she's got a fiance, so she's pretty much raising 3 kids by herself is not a lot of pain. It is.
So I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I also grew up without my dad. My dad went to jail when I was 3 weeks old and didn't come out till I was 4. And my mom and my dad didn't really have a good relationship all the time. But I can say that I'm proud of myself for making a better decision for my 3 girls. I did come out of a domestic abusive relationship with my first daughter's father. And, I came such a long way, to even try to stop or thinking about stopping, or even trying to put my dream on hold. That's why I'm going so hard for my dream, because I've been through so much. And I want to show my girls that even though mommy went through this, you can still go for your dream and still be successful in life.
Yeah.
So, that's why I keep pushing. That's why I keep, my dream on the back of my head. And, writing it down too, that's a good thing too. I never really wrote down my goals or my dreams, but I've been wanting to be a nurse since I was 9 years old. So it's been in my heart, so.
I'm going to ask you a question then. Why do you want to be a nurse, Ashley?
I love caring for people. I love taking care of people. I love making people feel better. And I have a passion for that. Every time my grandmother sprained her ankle, I'll be like, okay, grandma, you need me to wrap your ankle. You need me to do this. You need me to do that. So it's always been passionate in my heart to care for people and also do for people too. That's, I always, had a passion for that. So that what made me want to be a nurse. I actually want to be a surgeon, a cardiologist, but I thought that I was too old for it. So I'm like, well, I'm just go for a nurse.
Hey,
so that's a lot of.
Yes, but listen to me now. I'm going to say this because you put it out there. A nurse could be your dreams or goals go in short, medium, and long-term goals. And then you should also have lifetime goals. Never, ever retire from anything. I mean, retire from work, but you know what I'm saying. That nurse position could be a midterm goal to give you the money to put your family in a position, to put you in a position to go chase something bigger. So don't, when you say that, say it with a smile, but don't say it with a laugh like it's not possible, because it's possible. You just have to put it in the order that it fits in your life. You got 3 kids to raise, and you're going to get this career. The coolest thing is you're going for a career versus a job. Jobs suck. Careers is what we want. That's a big difference that people got to understand what those are. But listen, I'm telling you, write it down. Write that down, because I don't care if you're 50, you can still go get that because you want it. Remember, you're responsible for those 3 kids, but so don't let that sit away. You might fall in love with nursing and say, this is it, I'm good. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But on that list, that goal list, it needs to be there until you no longer have any desire to do it. Then you can mark it off. So
I want to say too, because my degree is in career planning, and it could be actually like you becoming a nurse on a surgical floor and being mentored and observing and being that surgeon's right hand nurse, and then getting taught and groomed, and like they see the skills, you got the skill set, you got the drive, you got the passion, you've got all these things set up. Now it's your turn, right, to go to medical school. And we're not in the age and era anymore where it's like you stick with one career, or you're too old. No. My oldest student I've ever worked with was 70 years old. 70 years old. She was taking my career planning class because she's like, okay, what next? So no, you just keep going. And yeah, I agree with Harvie. Like the nursing can be just like that midpoint, that springboard to that next step.
Thank you.
Mentor.
The encouraging words, I really do, because I thought that even now, even before I got into school, into Kishwaukee, I was kind of being like undecisive if I should go to school, because I felt like I was too old. I have 3 kids. I'm 27. It's too old for me to get into nursing, but
not at all.
My fiance's grandmother, she sat down and talked to me because she was also a nurse, and she was like, baby, you're not old. Go to school. Do what you got to do. You're not old at all. You're young. Go do what you have to do.
I also teach some classes at the college, and you're what we call a non-traditional student, and you're our favorites because you bring actual life experience, knowledge as a mom, knowledge as a daughter, knowledge as a worker in whatever capacity, but you've got life knowledge to bring to the table. So we love you in our classes. We love what you bring. Just keep going. You are not old. I went back to school when I was 29. But I knew everything. Everybody else was like 18. I'm like, I know so much more than you, so you are already you're coming in with an advantage. Your age is an advantage right now. So just keep that in mind.
Here's an interesting stat. 27 years of age. That's when people start consolidating their lives. That's when people have been maybe kicked in the gut a little bit or enough that they start to consolidate and start adding the can'ts and I shouldn'ts and I won'ts. You're at 27 and you're moving forward. That's a huge hurdle, because that is a stat that sits out there that says that's the age range where people this, I got a good career, I'm gonna hold on to this and ride this out for the next 25 years versus moving forward. So you give yourself kudos. That's something in your bag that's telling you that you're too old. Get rid of it. That's what I'm talking about. The stuff we carry with us, we don't even know it. Mm-hmm. The negative crap we've been around and heard that's in our subconscious mind that we don't even know it's there. And you got to get rid of that. You already have. I'm not saying like you have to. You're doing it. You already have. So It's 11:57. You already hit one of my leadership things. That's a huge one. Have all great leaders have great mentors. What you hit there, Christine, about getting on the right floor and getting with the right people. My wife, our Scott Community College here has 3 different campuses in 3 different towns. My wife and I, we opened up our first business together, which was our fitness facility. And when things started going bad, we knew we needed to get some insurance. So she started working at Western. Now she's a first generation too, and she just got her degree. It was called Board of Trustees degree at the time. And she started as a temp at Western 10 months out of the year so we can get the insurance. And she had a great mentor. And that mentor got my wife prepared at the desk while she's taking phone calls. To today, she's such a bad husband. Her job title now, she runs the whole recruiting department for all 3 campuses. This is a woman. She's a beast, but it's because she had a great mentor that prepped her for stuff. So when the next job came, she already knew it. She already knew what to do. So it was easy for her to get that job. She's amazing. So always have a great mentor. Since our time, I'm going to hit you with what I think is one of the greatest leadership qualities is God gave us 2 of these and 1 of these. Why? We need to listen more than we talk. Listen and learn, and be the greatest server in whatever room you're in at any time of your life. The greatest servers are always the greatest leaders. Self-leaders, self-serve, the greatest servers are always the greatest leaders in the room. If you do that and you live in a model of so like for you guys, I hope you know that I care. I hope you do. And I always say one of my dad's name is Zig Ziglar. One of my dad's name is Les Brown. One of my dad's name is Jody Victor. These are people that I've studied, researched, and listened to. That's who my fathers are. Zig Ziglar, burned it in my soul. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I was a great high school football coach, not because I knew how to call plays. It's because I knew how to serve those young men and help them be the best that they can be. And so those young men that are out there, grown men, calling me all the time, I'm going to weddings and all this stuff because I serve them. The greatest of you must be the least of you in the Bible, but be a great server to all, and you'll see how that makes a huge difference in your life. I'm going to stop there because I know it's 12 o'clock. Are there any more questions? I hope that helped. You guys understand how important and how powerful your dream is. This is about you, your dream, not someone else's, yours. Now, if your dream is to serve someone else, to be with someone else, to help someone else, that's okay too. That is okay. There are people that just never figure out what they're supposed to do, but at least make sure you're serving and representing the right person that fills your bucket, that fills your heart. Cool.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it helped, guys. I really do. Your dreams are so important. People like us are the keys to making this world a better place.
Yes, it helped us a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I especially appreciated how you emphasized you and how we can't control the actions of others. We can only control our own actions. You talk about, how we live in circles. I refer to that as like those generational curses.
Mm-hmm.
And, just how that's what we're doing as first generation students is, or with TRIO is breaking those generational curses and breaking those negative generational patterns. Not allowing the actions of others, whether it be our parents or, the naysayers, not allowing their actions to hinder our growth. And so I especially appreciated that. And I really hope that, the students that are watching, that they really internalize that. Even for myself too, because I felt like you were talking right to me, because it's something that I'm still kind of like learning.
I feel the same way, Tam. I feel the same way.
Yeah, we just talked about that, me and Ashley. So.
Pam, you just hit me with something, and I don't think I completed it when I told you. I remember when I told you about those boots, steel-toed boots.
Mm-hmm.
I said someone's opinion of me, even as close as my mom. Sometimes it takes things to motivate you. I kept those boots through college, all the way through, in the closet. Generational circles, I really need to start saying it that way too, because some of us are trapped in them. And man, it's that weight in the bag. So yeah, no, it's great. Thank you for reminding me of that. But yes, we got to break them. If we don't, it just gets us. It just gets us.
Our growth. Yeah.
So thank you all so much. Thank you for blessing me to give you the sharing this information with you guys. So
Harvie, yeah, we're so grateful. Thanks for your time today. Thank you, students and staff, for taking the time to join us. And Harvie, I'll send you the link to the recording of this.
Okay.
So
send everybody if you go to my website, you guys see my name here. If you ever have any questions, send me the question. If I don't have the answer, I'll help you get the answer. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out. I respond to every email.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, everyone.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.